It's less than 1 week to UK Games Expo, and new this year is the Sir Coates Painting Masters painting competition. If you're a listener to our podcast, you know that we do like to paint a mini. It felt rude not to enter this competition, so me and Rory took up the mantle and decided to put paint to miniature.
My entry for this painting competition is going to be the Orc Warboss from Games Workshop. The reason for this is quite simple. I love painting orcs. I've always had an orc army. I just like painting orcs. I don't like painting human flesh because that can go wrong. It's quite easy to paint something that's completely made up, like greenskins.
I decided personally I wanted to go for the board game category because, well, lots and lots of board games. Ummed and ahh'd a bit, considered something from Kingdom Death Monster, but eventually decided on the Fire Giant from Blood Rage. This felt like not only it's an awesome model, but there was scope to do lots of exciting things. And my first point of call was to look for the original Adrian Smith artwork. In this you can see lots of cool lighting sources. Lava from above, the flaming sword in his hand, and of course some kind of cool light coming from the outside. Hopefully this would give me the opportunity to do some different lighting, maybe add a bit of atmosphere to it. Also means that there's lots of metal on there, which means I could do lots of object source lighting and non-metallic metal. Now, they say that when entering a painting competition, you should do the basics first and leave that kind of exciting stuff to one side and get good first. But I'm an idiot, so I carried on regardless.
So I've spent a bit of time today doing some painting of my orc. Focusing mainly, believe it or not, on his green skin, as you can tell from this melange of green on my palette. So I'm done almost all of it now. I'm getting a little bit sick to the back teeth, so I need to take a break, I think, before I then go and work on the face, because, see, that's going to have the most attention when anybody picks up the model. So I'd like to come to that fresh. I've also just had the idea that maybe I might give him a gold tooth for fun, because I've decided to go with non-metallic metals and I've never done that before, so let's do some on his face, because that sounds like a great idea. It's going well. I've never painted a model like this before in pieces. Obviously I've always just assembled it completely and gone, but the shoulder pad was causing such problems. The shoulder pad and the jaw, and it's got like this guard around his lower jaw, which just made painting him almost impossible. So I've had to start again with my mini, doing them in pieces. So I have no idea how I'm going to spend all this time painting the green, and then I've got to put more stuff on it and undercoat it and prime it and paint it from scratch and not fuck up the green at all.
Very early on, I decided that this needed to be on an awesome base. Now, the model itself is integrated into the base, and I thought it needed to look, well, better. It needed to look like the giant was bounding over some lava-strewn volcano side. So I took the very drastic decision to remove the model from its base. This proved a little trickier than I first thought, as it is fully moulded into the base with the foot actually moulded to the base plastic. At first I tried very surgically cutting at the foot with a craft knife and found that wasn't working. So I resorted to more drastic measures and got a hacksaw out the garage and still, very gently, removed the model from its base.
Oh, my heart is racing. Hot tip: if you're going to cut off a chunk of your model, do that before you start painting it. And if you are going to cut off a chunk of your model, your plastic model with a Dremel, be warned that it cuts and melts. Oh, so stressed.
Once I had a flat base, I applied some slate to grate some rocks. I then added some nail polish, UV curing, to make a smooth surface for the lava. From there, it was a simple case of painting it. Dark colours for the rocks, and then a series of using fluorescent paints, yellow up to brown up to black, to produce the lava flow.
Oh, but it's off. It's done. He's now going to stand proud on his little mountain of slate tiles that I've got. I need a cup of tea. Oh, there it is. Bloody hellfire.
I wanted that same fluorescent cool effect for the sword, so after undercoating black, I then went in and painted the sword white, and then using an airbrush, so I got a nice even coat, painted on some fluorescent yellows, then oranges, and then hand glazed in some other colours. I then used a sponge to dab on some colours to add some texture and add a bit of gradation to the bottom. I felt this wasn't bright enough, so later on I used some pure white in the recesses of the flames and in the runes to give it a good base for a glow. I then went with the airbrush and sprayed it, but I found this was probably undid all the work I'd done earlier with the sponge, meaning I had to go back in and blend all the colours. I also, when I did this, added yellow through to orange into the rune in the centre of the sword, just to make it look like the hottest part is at the top, and as it cools towards the bottom. So I've been using these fluorescent pigments from Green Stuff World, which are absolutely awesome because they're really vibrant and you can control the level of colour in them and the thickness. I mean, I use this stuff, which is matte medium mixed in, works absolutely brilliantly. However, because it's a pigment, I'm finding bits of fluorescent pigment absolutely everywhere, and sooner or later the wife is going to kill me.
So I'm making some great progress, I think. I've done all the flesh, I've done the face, I've done the teeth, the tongue, the eyes, I've done the axe, I've done the leather straps, I've done some of the chainmail, I've done some of the cloth, I've done his trousers even. So all that's really left now is the armour, which does make up the bulk of the model. And I started doing that last night, but I normally use a tile, but I found the paint was just drying because it was taking so long to do. So I've got to crack out the old wet palette, which I haven't used in ages. As I discovered when I opened it, that I also didn't clean it after last time I used it. And I didn't know that paint could grow mould. I'm learning so much about how rubbish I am about painting. Just so rubbish.
Because I knew I was going to be working with different light sources, one of the things I did early on was take photographs of the undercoated model with a light nearby. This allowed me not only to see where the highlights actually hit, but because the undercoat has a slight shine to it, more of a satin than a gloss, it means I could use that to help me identify where the shine of the non-metallic metal would be, particularly on the headdress because it's such a large area, and it did take me a while to try and work out where that should go. For the long and arduous process of the gold, I followed Vince Ventrella's gold tutorial. It took a long time. It took a lot of going back and forth. I'm still not sure it's right in a couple of places. And there's nothing to really say other than that. Just time. Lots and lots of time.
So I'm painting the armour and it's all going well until I notice that I've missed a bit when filing. I've got a really rough edge on the forearm armour, which now means although I've started painting it and the leather straps and the arm, I'm now going to have to file it down really carefully.
I have just taken a photograph of my Mini to send to my friends, and as soon as I photograph it, I notice the most horrendous mould line going down the centre of the, I don't know what you'd call it, glove thing on his arm. It's a mould line that goes around all the bobbles, and it looks horrendous. So I'm going to have to try and scrape it off and repaint it.
Note to self, double check that you've got everything. Double check you do all of this stuff. You clean your model before you start painting, especially before you get like 70% through painting your model.
This has been a bit stressful. It's taken a lot of time. I'm not confident with what I painted. I actually had a nightmare at one point that I had to hand the model in to Games Workshop because Duncan Rhodes had made a deal with them, and I hadn't finished the model because you had to hand the miniature in 2 weeks before Expo. and there was a big queue outside Games Workshop for entries. I don't know. It's my brain. It doesn't work properly. Especially when stressed.
So this model is actually model number 2. This was the first one. The first one I fully assembled, sprayed, started painting, and realised I can't paint his face. So I had to buy a new model. And I've not assembled the whole thing. And I've gone about as far as I can now with that. So now I've got the problem of what I do with the armour, what I want to do with the shoulder pad. So I've been worrying about it. How am I going to attach it, prime it, base it, paint it without getting any damage to the model I've done so far?
Once I had mapped out all the colours, then really the entire thing was a process of going back and forth, just tidying things up. The only major thing I did later on was the glowing runes on the body. Again, similar to the sword, infilled them with bold titanium white, and then used an airbrush to paint a glow, then glazed over fluorescent colours. This ended up being a bit too much. My airbrush control was a bit pants, so not only did I have a bit of overspray, but a large area. And then it was just a case of using some glazes to pull that back. So yeah, it's done.
Yeah, done. I'm going to be painting this up until Friday morning.
Friday morning?
I'm going to be touching it up. No, it's done. It's done. But it's like,
right, okay.
I'm sure I can. You said about diminishing returns.
Yes.
And I've passed that marker. But I'm going to keep going.
Right, okay.
I'm going to keep going.
I every time I pick it up now, I see something on it and go, oh, I just need to put a bit of paint there. And then what usually happens is I've then got to mix some paint.
Yeah.
Because it's a blend of like 5 different colours that I used 3 weeks ago. And I've got to try and remember what colour it is.
Did you not keep a list this time? No.
No. I mean, you can probably see like the really tiny desk behind me, which with my system, which is like, is the paint within arm's reach? If it's within arm's reach, then I probably used it.
But I know what you mean. Like I pick up the model, and every time I look at it, I just see problems. Yeah. I just see all the things that have gone wrong.
Yes.
But I've enjoyed it. It's been a challenge. I've worked out how rubbish I am at painting. I got a lot of room for improvement. That ceiling's really high up.
Well, as I said, it's done.
It's done. Yeah.
As I said, I hasten. Not hasten. I'm reluctant to use the term grand reveal. I mean,
there's nothing grand about it.
It's a reveal. So, for your viewing pleasure, here is the finished miniatures.
Yeah, enjoy.
They're done.
Yeah,
it's
done.
All now in the hands of the judges. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we are releasing this video before Expo, so we don't know how we do. If you wanted to know how we did, then
got a good idea.
If you want to know how we did, then if you listen to the post-Expo podcast episode, we'll go through our trials and tribulations of the actual competition. But until then,
quite a lengthy segment.
Well, we're just pointing to this video.
Okay,
we're just pointing to this video.
Watch this video.
Yes.
Okay.
So, until next time, happy gaming.
Bye-bye.